All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today we are unpacking a massive crisis, and it's one that's happening quietly, right under our noses, in bedrooms and classrooms literally all across the globe. We're going to take a really hard look at the very system designed to build our future, our educational system, and examine the mounting evidence that it might actually be breaking it instead. So let's just dive right in. I want you to picture this for a second. It's 2:13 in the morning. A 16-year-old student is sitting all alone in a dimly lit bedroom. On the desk, 3 empty energy drink cans. Their laptop is glaring open to a college application portal right next to a list of 5 missing assignments. Meanwhile, their phone is just constantly buzzing with messages from classmates comparing SAT scores, class rankings, and internship opportunities. And somewhere in that lonely, exhausting space between the overwhelming pressure to succeed and the terrifying fear of failing, that student quietly breaks down. And it's not out of weakness. It's because the entire ecosystem around them has basically convinced them that their human worth is exclusively measured by their academic performance. And look, this isn't just some isolated anecdote. A staggering 83% of teenagers today identify academic pressure as a major source of daily stress. Just think about the sheer scale of that for a moment. We are talking about an entire generation living inside an invisible pressure cooker, which is fundamentally altering what it even means to grow up. Section 1. The invisible pressure cooker. So how exactly did education shift from nurturing young minds to completely overwhelming them? Well, historically, education was widely viewed as a pathway to knowledge, character building, and opportunity. But over recent decades, that landscape has completely warped. With skyrocketing college tuition, a really weakened middle-class security, and fiercely competitive globalized job markets, a degree is no longer just an advantage. It's literally viewed as basic economic survival. Kids aren't just learning anymore. They're competing in this high-pressure achievement culture where every single grade feels like life or death. When we think of teen stress, we usually assume social media, fitting in, or appearance are the main culprits, right? But interestingly, data from the Pew Research Center shows that academic pressure completely dwarfs those other concerns. A massive 61% of American teenagers say the pressure to get good grades is their absolute biggest source of stress. Section 2. Childhood as career prep. And the timeline for this stress is moving earlier and earlier. For so many students, middle school and high school have quietly transformed into rigorous career prep phases. Think about this daily routine. Waking up at 5:30 a.m., grinding through a full day of school, transitioning straight into sports or resume-building extracurriculars, and then pushing through homework until midnight. It is a relentless, physically exhausting loop, month after month, year after year. Adults often wonder why teenagers seem so emotionally drained today, but frankly, this kind of schedule would burn out most seasoned corporate executives. And, as you might expect, this schedule takes a severe biological toll. 77% of American high school students are chronically sleep-deprived. When a student sacrifices sleep to keep up with advanced classes and exam prep, they aren't just feeling a little groggy. They're severely impacting their memory, their emotional regulation, their immune system, and they are dramatically increasing their risk for depression and anxiety. They're quite literally trading their physiological health for academic achievement. Now, we also have to recognize that this burden is not carried equally. 39% of teen girls report anxiety and depression as major daily issues. The combination of intense social expectations, perfectionism, academic comparison, and just the overall online culture creates a uniquely intense psychological weight. And similarly, LGBTQ+ students are facing heavily compounded rates of emotional and academic stress. We have to remember there are real vulnerable human beings behind every single one of these percentage points. Section 3. The college breaking point. College is historically romanticized as this amazing time of newfound freedom and self-discovery. But today, for many, it is the absolute breaking point. Campus survey data over a 12-month period reveals that 37.1% of college students are actively treated for severe stress. Over 31% are treated for anxiety, over 20% for depression. Meanwhile, nearly 94% of students report feeling overwhelmed by academics. We're looking at an entire generation walking through university campuses, sitting in the libraries at 3 a.m., pretending everything is completely fine, while they are fundamentally entirely exhausted. And when stress becomes chronic, people naturally search for an escape. This is why we see spikes in substance abuse, reliance on stimulants just to pull all-nighters, deep emotional withdrawal, and digital addiction. The academic pressure doesn't just stay neatly confined to the classroom. It bleeds into their sleep, their identity, and ultimately their physical safety. Psychologists actually frame this crisis beautifully, if tragically, as an environmental imbalance. This happens when the expectations placed on an individual grow significantly faster than their emotional ability to cope with them. Students are essentially trapped in a system driven by fear. Fear of unemployment, fear of crushing debt, fear of just being left behind. Section 4. The business of pressure. To really understand why this environment exists, we've got to look at the macroeconomic forces at play here. Modern economies deeply reward high performance, constant productivity, and relentless competition. So schools have increasingly begun to mirror corporate environments. We're training students to optimize themselves like economic assets, perfecting their grades, their resumes, their networking. But here's the thing. Human beings are not machines. When young minds are treated purely as optimized assets rather than humans requiring emotional balance and mental health, well, collapse is basically inevitable. Ironically, by pushing so hard for economic success, we are triggering massive economic costs. A generation plagued by poor mental health leads directly to reduced workforce productivity, soaring healthcare spending, and notably lower innovation. Because you see, burned-out students eventually graduate and become burned-out workers. An anxious, exhausted generation simply cannot sustainably build a healthy, innovative global economy. It just doesn't work. Which really forces us to pause and ask this pivotal question. Do we continue building systems that reward achievement at the absolute cost of emotional well-being? We are at a critical crossroads right now. With AI, automation, and global competition, the pressure could easily just keep rising. But we actually have a choice here. Section 5. Redefining academic success. So how do we untangle achievement from mental destruction? Well, starting at the local level, schools absolutely must shift focus to prioritize emotional well-being right alongside academics. That means implementing real anti-burnout policies, creating healthier schedules, and adding mental health counselors. At the same time, parents play a massive role. It is vital to provide unconditional support over grade comparisons. Asking a child, "What did you learn today?" is infinitely healthier than constantly asking, "What grade did you get?" Emotional safety builds much stronger futures than fear ever could. From there, we need to expand these solutions systemically. Governments must heavily invest in youth mental health infrastructure, things like affordable counseling, educational reform, and real student debt solutions. And as a society as a whole, we must fundamentally redefine success. We have got to stop glorifying exhaustion and realize that true success is building a meaningful life without sacrificing your sanity. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to let this powerful quote sink in. No grade is worth a child's mental collapse. No university ranking, no scholarship, and absolutely no starting salary is worth a young person losing their hope. The struggling students we've talked about today are not weak. They are carrying burdens far heavier than many adults even realize. Human value will always, always exceed a GPA. Education is meant to build lives, not break them. We need innovators, thinkers, creators, and compassionate leaders, none of which can survive for long under constant, crushing psychological pressure. So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. As you look at the students in your own life, do you think our modern education system is truly helping them grow, or is it just pushing them toward burnout? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and until next time, take care of your mind.